Chapter 33 On the Hunt. Landing, or rather materializing in one location in space-time as he dematerialized in another, Barnaby took a few seconds to recover. His head ached, his body ached, and he simply ached all over. He could feel the nanotech working overtime to heal his body, and within a few minutes he felt a whole heap better. Looking around, he recognized the site where he had appeared. It was a sepulchre location in Greece. The strange thing with time travel is that you really need to know where you'll end up. You really don't want to materialize into something, like a wall, or even partway into something, so you need space. But you really need to know that that space will always be a space even when you may be traveling back 200 years. To prevent accidents, once Sepulchre had created time travel, they had needed to create a network of safe houses around the world that they could travel to and from whenever they needed. This had meant going back in time and securing sites that would then never be developed, or at least part of them would never be developed so people could jump freely and safely. This had been part of Sebastian's early work. Once he had raised money with the bets, he had then been advised what and where to buy property, buying up the old and disused industrial sites. These had in turn been converted into suitable safe houses. Where Barnaby now found himself was one such safe house. The date he and Sebastian had decided on was a few days earlier than the start of the original timeline's solarium extraction. This meant he would, or at least should, be able to spot any inconsistencies in how the events had unfurled in this new timeline. It meant he was going to be doing a lot of sitting around and watching, something that over the years he had become very good at. He had over the years become very well adapted to sitting and watching. He would need a location that overlooked the dig site and enough supplies so that he would not need to move for a few days. Supplies were the easy bit. A location could prove to be a more stubborn problem to solve. An hour later he had shopped and arrived in the vicinity of the dig site. Looking around, he could see several possibilities as a viable lookout, but of those one looked very promising. On a cliff above the dig site sat a disused building. It was weather-tight and had excellent views of the dig site and all entrances and exits. With his provisions sorted, he would be able to stay there unseen for at least 2 days, which should cover up to the time the excavation started, or rather will start. The first hours were uneventful. People came and went, but none looked out of place, and when he reviewed the list of employees or government agencies, he could easily associate the people to their photographs held on file. At 1600 hours on the first afternoon, the shift changed. It was all very uneventful. Barnaby was beginning to worry that if anything was going to happen, it had to sometime soon. If it didn't happen, then all the solarium would be recovered and the inevitable leftovers would be used to make the currently missing statue. As Barnaby considered the possibilities, which were only made worse with the introduction of a time travel variable, the new guard shift did their initial loop around the site and made notes on the clipboards before settling down in their cabin. He was going to have to work reasonably quickly in order to trace the recent events and understand what had happened. First stop was the site itself and organize interviews for the security teams over the past month. Grabbing a few hours sleep from 2 to 7 o'clock, Barnaby woke just as the early morning shift were getting ready to hand over to the day shift and go home. Another shift done. He'd been here over a day and had seen nothing. He'd prayed that something would reveal itself soon. Little did he know, but the next 24 hours were probably the most important 24 hours in this latest episode. Nearly all the pieces would finally start dropping into place. For now, though he just felt a little lost, he knew from experience that now was the time to focus even harder lest he miss the smallest of details.